Hi, I'm horror author Paul Edwards. Today I'm looking through Space Monsters magazine, issue number 1 from 1990. I thought some of you might enjoy flipping through this vintage monster magazine with me. And at the end of this video, I'm including a special pop quiz that'll determine if you are truly a monster kid. Let's get right into Space Monsters magazine premiere issue. Ooh, I will show you something though. Check this out. Space Monster Invasion. Look to the skies for a warning. Do you know what vintage science fiction movie this line is from? Look to the skies for a warning. That's from Earth versus the Flying Saucers. A Ray Harryhausen film. All right. Oh, nice. Inside cover gives you a nice poster of the day the Earth stood still. All right, let's see what we get here. Yeah, remembering when this came out, this is both modern and classic Space Monsters. Aliens was only a couple of years old at this point. The Abyss was really recent. The Thing, John Carpenter's version of The Thing, was not that old. All right, let's get to it. Oh my gosh. Oh no. Deep Star 6 was not exactly what I expected. It does have an alien monster in it, but it's not quite as spacey of a movie as you might think. Oh my gosh, check out this guy. He's epic. Killer clowns from outer space. Okay, so Paul Blaisdell made a lot of monsters, some of which I like. Not all of his creations were right on the money. My favorite thing that he ever made was these dudes, the aliens from Invasion of the Saucermen. Even though the movie is a comedy sci-fi horror, I still think the alien heads are pretty creepy. At least I did when I was, 8 years old. So I do like the Paul Blaisdell aliens from Invasion of the Saucermen, which was in black and white, despite what this picture makes you think. I was not crazy about the she-creature design. Is it scary? It scared me when I was a kid, yeah. But it also looks like a hodgepodge collection of different elements that don't seem to work. Like, why would the creature have these bladed tusks on its elbows, or these random fins on its shoulders? I realize it's supposed to be a sea creature, but I was just never the biggest fan of this design. I mean, I like the she creature, but compare that to the creature from the Black Lagoon, which is a similar monster design, and the creature from the Black Lagoon just runs rings around this design. Yeah, this is a good example of a movie that doesn't deliver what it seems to promise. The alien in The Beast with a Million Eyes doesn't really have a million eyes. He can see through the minds of lower life forms, animals. So in that sense, he can see with a million eyes. That's what they mean by that. But this makes you think you're getting a monster with a million eyes on it, which you're not. Darn it. I feel ripped off. I want my monster with a million eyes. The Man from Planet X. This is from Invaders from Mars. This is from the original version of The Thing, the 1950s one, the Howard Hawks version of The Thing. Max von Sydow as Ming the Merciless in the Flash Gordon movie. Oh my gosh. Oh, I Married a Monster from Outer Space. Oh, here's Flash Gordon. These are the foot soldiers from Invaders from Mars. The Man from Planet X is a movie from 1951, which is a blend of horror and science fiction. It's a very low budget Edgar Ulmer movie, but it does a good job of blending the gothic horror elements with the space age science fiction elements. And really, The Man from Planet X was a good indicator of what science fiction would be like for the rest of the 1950s. That is, science fiction movies that were mostly horror with just some sci-fi elements thrown in. The War of the Worlds, which was not a low-budget Edgar Ulmer movie, but a big-budget George Pal movie from 1953. The Day the Earth Stood Still. So there's Clayton from outer space, and here's his killer robot, Gort. I know I've told this story before, but my late mother-in-law, when she was going to a medical specialist at one point, she was told that the doctor's name was Dr. Gort. And she was a big science fiction fan. She was a big fan of 50s sci-fi, and she immediately thought of this Gort, and she just couldn't get over the fact that she was going to Dr. Gort. I guess I would be a little intimidated too. There's our favorite, Robbie the Robot. It's a publicity picture from Forbidden Planet. Oh, look, we get a friendly monster. E.T. You know, if you think of E.T. as being a somewhat of a sequel to Close Encounters of the Third Kind, it all connects. I know that Steven Spielberg didn't really intend it to be a sequel to Close Encounters, but the aliens are really similar, and it would fit in with the logic of Close Encounters. Oh my gosh. I remember these guys. Yeah, First Men in the Moon, that's right. V. If you're not familiar with V, it was a science fiction action made for TV movie and then TV series in the early to mid 1980s. It's worth seeing. The series is uneven. They kept changing what way they wanted to go with the series, but the initial movie is pretty good. Oh, nice. No, thank you. Call now. UFO investigations. Oh my gosh. Find out how you can get the video that no one could broadcast. A $39.95 value free. Wow. How could you not call? Yeah, so the great Boris Karloff kept on making movies right up until the end of his life. He was great. The movies he was in were not always great. He would take roles in less than perfect movies and make them as good as he could. And there were a few alien invasion movies he did at the end game of his career, like The Incredible Invasion. Fear Chamber was one too. Ugh. Yep, there's the fear chamber right there. Now we're going back to a much older Karloff, The Man They Could Not Hang. And The Devil Commands. That's an underrated Karloff film. If you're into vintage horror movies and monster movies, but you don't think you've seen every last one of them, one you should check out is The Devil Commands. I'm sure you can find it on YouTube or somewhere else online. Definitely worth seeing. Karloff is a scientist who is trying to experiment with scientific means of communicating with the dead. You can imagine exactly how well that goes. The Man with Nine Lives. Yeah. The Outer Limits was a TV show a lot like Twilight Zone. It was an anthology show, except it was much more dark than Twilight Zone. Twilight Zone had some dark episodes, but then they had like some lighthearted ones. You didn't get anything lighthearted in The Outer Limits. They were all creepy and scary. The Zonti Misfits. Some people were just freaked out by the Zonti Misfits. These were intelligent, insect-like space aliens. I thought they were a little goofy, but... The monster that scared me the most on The Outer Limits was in The Architects of Fear, where they turned the guy into a fake space alien. They rearranged all his organs and everything. In fact, here he is, Robert Culp. Sadly, they're not showing you the monster that they turned him into. That was so unnerving and upsetting. Now, see, if this had been Famous Monsters of Filmland, Forey Ackerman would have given us a pun for this monster. Something like, "Don't give me no lip." Oh my gosh, now I'm coming up with Forey Ackerman puns. That's not good. Oh, okay, so Aliens was only about 3 or 4 years old when this magazine came out. So, fairly new. You know, if you've ever noticed, the first Alien, although it has the look of a science fiction movie, it's really just a straight up horror movie. Just happens to be set in a science fiction setting. This one, Aliens, is really more than anything an action movie. It just has elements of science fiction and horror in it, but it's basically an action movie. Yeah. I was a bit too young to see Alien in the theater, but I did see Aliens in the theater, and that the Queen alien freaked me out. This island Earth, and that is the Metaluna mutant. Some people really like the design of that monster. Or as they call it in the movie, a mutant. Yeah. Oh. Oh, we're back to Paul Blaisdell. Oh yeah, continued from The Day the World Ended. This is a typical Paul Blaisdell one. This is what I mean. Some of his monsters were not the best. Invasion of the Saucermen, those were great. Look, UFOs are real. Oh, that's It, The Terror from Beyond Space. This was a movie that was a lot like the first Alien movie, the 1979 Alien movie, except this movie was from 1958. But it was the same basic premise. Astronauts aboard a spaceship are being picked off one by one by an alien monster that has sneaked aboard and, isn't initially known to be there. Strange invaders. Yeesh. Without any backstory, you're just looking at this picture. It's like normal, normal, normal. What the? And then you realize, what? Gosh. Ooh, UFO Universe. I never even heard of this magazine. UFO Universe. Back issues. Okay. The Abyss had only come out the year before this magazine, so this was pretty current. Oh yeah. This was a good one. Yeah. I always think that deep sea stories, stories that are set on deep sea bases, like that Kristen Stewart movie Underwater, are really good because it's so claustrophobic. You can't possibly escape the base. So it's a good way to isolate the protagonist. Oops. Alien abductions and the mystery solved. Are you detecting a pattern in the ads they're running here? The Thing. Okay, now, I know the 1982 John Carpenter The Thing is a masterpiece. I think sometimes it overshadows how good the 1950s The Thing was, because that was easily one of the 5 best science fiction horror movies of the 1950s. But all on its own, even if you never saw the old one, this version of The Thing is truly great. They tried to recreate the vibe of this around maybe 10 years or so ago in that other version of The Thing with Mary Elizabeth Winstead, which was okay. It was all right. The movie was all right, but it just didn't have the same magic to it that the 1982 version did. Probably because we knew what to expect from the monster. I think that's the biggest difference. In the 1982 one, the first time we saw it, we didn't know what to expect from the monster, and it was horrifying. The Mary Elizabeth Winstead one, the effects were fine, and the story was fine, but we knew what to expect from the monster, so it took a lot of the horror out of it. A big part of horror is the fear of the unknown. Oh, and here's the Howard Hawks The Thing. It creeps, it crawls, it strikes without warning. That's sort of a variation on something that they used to do in movie adverts that was called the 4 C's, S-E-E. Like, see a monster emerge from the ocean. See it terrorize the town. See the heroes run for their lives, like that. And they would have a format to it. See this, see this, see this, see this. And then they would have the title of the movie. So this is a variation of the 4 C's pattern of advertising. It creeps, it crawls, it strikes without warning. Oh my gosh. This looks like the ugly brother of the Gorn from Star Trek. And this, In case you don't recognize it, this is from the Angry Red Planet. Artist rendition. Oh, suddenly we got attention animal lovers. Funny pictures of cats and funny pictures of dogs. That's good. I'm not sure why they targeted this magazine. The UFO ads were a lot more in line with the audience, I would think. Famously, one of the worst movies that Hollywood ever put out, Robot Monster. The guy who made that thought that it was really great, and when it came out and got horrible reviews, he was almost suicidally depressed. That's not funny. I don't think that's funny. I know that's terrible. But he really thought he was making a masterpiece. He really thought people were going to love Robot Monster. And they didn't. Now, here's the difference between a good bad movie and a bad movie. Catwoman of the Moon is a good bad movie. I like this film. It's not serious in any way. It's, you know, if you're about 7 years old, you see how silly it is. But it's entertaining. Robot Monster is more painful. And there's Mogera from the Mysterians. It's a Japanese film. All right. When I turn the page here, I'm going to show you the back cover. And this is going to be a pop quiz. Brace yourself. This is going to be a pop quiz to see whether or not you are a true monster kid. Okay? Here's the pop quiz. Watch the screen. Okay. That was the quiz. If the first thing you noticed was the monster, you're a monster kid, just like me. If the first thing you noticed was the pretty girl, sorry, but you're just not enough of a monster kid. You got to keep working on it. Just keep watching the videos on my channel. It'll be great. You'll become a monster kid. Before you know it, you'll only have eyes for the monster. And that was the first issue of Space Monsters magazine. Hey, if you enjoy classic monsters and vintage horror, check out my book series, the Mourner's Woods books. I'm self-published on Amazon. I've written a series of books that take place in a haunted forest. Completely new cast of characters in every book. And there's different monsters in every book. I've got one with swamp monsters. I've got a giant monster one. I've got a zombie one. I've got, a ghost one. So there's different threats in each Mourner's Woods novel, and always something new to be afraid of. My name again is Paul Edwards. My books are the Mourner's Woods books. Thanks for checking out Space Monsters magazine, issue number 1 with me. This was fun. I'll see you in Mourner's Woods.